Good evening, everybody. First of all, I want to welcome Mr. Geza Bethlenfalvy. He is guest of honor today, and he is the main speaker. His Excellency, the Master of India, and our honorable guests. I welcome you all to Indian Culture Center. Today, it's a very big day for me to stand before you all. We are here to celebrate the 154th birthday of one of the greatest creative icons of India and modern South Asia. His name is Rabindranath Tagore. He is popularly known as Gurudev. He was a great poet, short story writer, song composer, novelist, playwright, essayist, and painter. He introduced a new form of prose and verse into Bengali literature. He was instrumental in reshaping the literature and music of the region. He is the first Indian to win Nobel Prize in Literature. His compositions, Jana Gana Mana and Amar Sonar Bangla, have been chosen as the national anthems of India and Bangladesh. Gurudev loved traveling. He came to Hungary also in 1926 and stayed at Balatonfure. A famous promenade has been named after him, where several Indian VIPs have planted trees. He stayed at the Balatonfure for rest and recuperation. About 30 of compositions of Gurudev have been translated in Hungarian language. He introduced the best of Indian culture to the West and vice versa. So we start the program today, and I request His Excellency Mr. Geza Bethlenfalvy to come and address us on this occasion. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the Director of the Cultural Center, and all guests welcome to see and to hear this today's gathering, which is, as was told, to celebrate the birthday, so to say, 154th birthday of Rabindranath Tagore, who was one of the greatest poets of India and also of the world. His name is written Tagore. Many of us pronounce it Tagore, which is quite good, but originally it has to be pronounced Thakur in Bengali. So Thakur was the original name. From this, Tagore is nearby the best English version, and Tagore is not really nice, but one can use it also. I would like first to give a short story of his life, of Tagore himself, what he has done. His father was Rabindranath Tagore, who has who had 14 children, and Rabindranath was the smallest of the 14, and he was very much interested in the family life, but unfortunately, when he was only 22, his father brought a lady to marry, which they married, they had actually 4 children, but 3 of them died together with the mother, so he was living later on alone. His father, Rabindranath Tagore, was actually a member, a leading member of the Brahmo Samaj. Brahmo Samaj was an organization which was founded by Ram Mohan Roy, or Rai, as we can call it, Raj, who lived, he was a great leader of the Bengal Renaissance. He lived up to 1833, from 1772, and together with the grandfather of Rabindranath, they founded the Brahmo Samaj, which was a kind of religious organization with one God, not with the many gods which the Hindus have, only one God, which was actually nearer to the European and English understanding of religion and God itself. So the Brahmo Samaj was a very important organization in the very beginning, in the time of British time of India. Rabindranath, as I told, was the 14th child, and when he was only 8 years old, he already composed a poem. So with 8 years old, he started his poetry work, and a few years later, he wrote a short story and dramas, and when he was 16 years, he had already a number of very important works ready. So, when he was 16, they visited already Shantiniketan. It's a very important place. Shanti means peace, Niketan means a place of peace, of peacefulness. That was a very important place, and later on it became Tagore's permanent place, and many visitors visited it. Among them, some Hungarians about whom I would like to speak a bit later. Tagore himself, he was the family was quite rich, so they had money and they traveled all around the world. He has visited some I have the number, some 54 countries, maybe not exact number, in the 5 continents, so including from Japan down to Africa, South America, and Europe also. Many countries they visited. They traveled around and tried to learn what is there, what is interesting in that country. So that was very important. When they started already in the earlier, but in 1912 they went to London, and there he took with himself a copybook in which there were the poems which he has written at that time when he traveled. Actually, as bad luck once, he lost this copybook on the metro in London, but he went to the lost office and they found it. And he has given, he met various kinds of people, among them William Butler Yeats, who was a poet in London, and he showed him this small booklet which he has written, in which his poems were there, and he thought this must be published. This is not just a booklet, it has to be published, and I will write the introduction to it. And they published it in 1 year. When they published it immediately in 13, he has got the Nobel Prize, literary Nobel Prize for this volume, and this was a great surprise, because he was the first Asiatic person who has got a Nobel Prize. This Nobel Prize is distributed by the Swedish Academy, so it was a great thing. Actually, also in Hungary, they have got a great the newspapers and the papers have noticed it, and many the best poets, for example, Babič Mihály, Kosztolányi, have written about this the Nobel Prize and about the poem. Within a short time, many of the poems and many of the works of Tagore were translated into Hungarian. I think in the early 20s, some 22 poems have been, 22 works of Tagore have been published. Among them, Ervin Baktai also, he translated 2 of his works, and not only in Hungary, even in England, he was knighted. Knighthood has got in 1915. However, he returned it to them in 1919 when the Jallianwala Bagh shooting happened in India, and great number of defenseless people were killed by the British Army in Jallianwala Bagh, and Tagore returned. So this is also one important. He was definitely on the Indian side of the battle, and he has there are many people from India and from Europe have actually paid respect to him. Among them, Satyajit Ray and many other persons. I don't want to speak much about the various people who have visited Tagore and Shantiniketan. Only few Hungarians I may mention, the 2 Brunner ladies who visited India in 1930. That was actually quite interesting travel. Mother and daughter, two brothers. Mother had a vision that you should not remain here, but go far away, go to India. And then later on, when they were already in Italy, Elizabeth, the younger Brunner, had a dream in which one old man with a white hair and beard has given her a small lamp, a small candle which was burning, and told that take this light in every nook and corner of the world. Show this light and take it around. And mother, when she told in the morning to the mother this story, this dream, she told that was Rabindranath Tagore, whom you have seen in your dream, and we must go to him. And she immediately wrote a letter to Tagore, which was the address was Tagore, India. That was in Hungarian. She has written that we have to go to India and have to see your center and where you like to go and so on. And Tagore immediately answered in Hungarian, because at that time in Shantiniketan there was Germanus Gyula and his wife. So he showed this letter to Germanus, and he wrote an answer to the Brunners, who went. They had actually no money. They were painting and trying to sell the paintings which they were painting, and so that was what they have. And they went down. Then they got in a ship to Alexandria, and then another ship to Bombay, and then up to from Bombay. Actually, when they went out the hotel in which they were staying, opposite came another person who was from Nagykanizsa, the same town where they were born actually. So and he told that we are here and we have to go to Shantiniketan to see Tagore, but we don't have money. We don't know how to go. Don't worry, I will give you the money. So he immediately bought a ticket to Bombay, from Bombay to Kolkata. And he went out to Shantiniketan. Tagore was not at home. He was in Kolkata. So they went back to Kolkata and went to the house where Tagore was born also, and where he was, this Jolashanko. This is in the center, a beautiful building now also exists. Some of you have seen it, I think. And it is a very beautiful building, and they went there. And then when they did not tell anybody that who are they are Hungarians or who they are. And Tagore came out of the house and immediately went to Mother Elizabeth and embraced her and told, you have come, I am happy, what can I do for you? So then they allowed him to I need peace. Mother told, I am meditating, I don't need anything, I want peace. And so they went, he gave a small letter, they went to Shantiniketan and got a house there in which they were then staying. And Tagore also came and he painted a few, they painted a few paintings about him. This is, for example, which Elizabeth, the youngest Elizabeth, painted these paintings. This is a painting where Tagore is giving, I don't know how you call it in English,
Blessings.
blessing to the to other girls. Please, I would like to show 2 more or 3 more paintings, if you can. So, Elizabeth painted Tagore in this way. This way we can see how he looked and how he was meditating. He himself meditating. Please, the next one. Tagore was sitting and they painted everybody they could paint. Tagore told them, now you go, after some time, you go a bit around India, and so they told that you go to various places, and they went to the place where Gandhi was staying, and Elizabeth also wanted to paint Gandhi. Gandhi told, I don't have time for this to sit you and so on. But he said, I just want half an hour and I just want to paint your soul. Well, in half an hour you can paint my soul. Okay, you get the half an hour. And he painted, and there is not here, but a very nice painting which he himself signed later on. So these are the main things which I wanted to tell. I don't know whether I have the 10 minutes, I think I'll...
You can go.
Are over, but we can, there are plenty of things we can speak about. Maybe about Tagore himself, with what kind of people he was in connection. Who were the great scholars and other people who wrote. So here is a list of people. Henry Bergson, Albert Einstein, Robert Frost, Mahatma Gandhi of course, Thomas Mann, George Bernard Shaw, H.G. Wells, Subhash Bose, Romain Rolland. These are just a basic list of important people whom Tagore met during the various travels he has done around the world. So I think I have here a poem also, if you don't mind. I read out this poem, which is here in original English, and Barclay has translated it into Hungarian. I will give both versions. When in your release in the air, O bird, let not thy wings be timid. Yield not to the lure of the easeful nest, to night's enchantment. Dost to not feel the hidden hope that hums in thy dream when thou sleepest, and in the expectant dark of the dawn, the silent promise that reveals itself is it rents the veil from the face of the bud of time. Barclay translation into Hungarian. A magasba szállva találj szabadságot, madár. Félelem ne bénítsa szárnyad. Ne bújjál meg a renyhefészek meleg zugában, ne ejtsen rabul az éjszaka. Ne érezd a rejtőző remény, nem érzed a rejtőző remény, mit susor az álom szavával, amíg te szunnyadsz. Nem érzed a hajnaligéretes homályában a halk biztatást, amint a szűzi fáklat letépi az idő bimbajáról, és beteljesítve kitárja a jövőt. This is a translation of the poem more or less. exact. I think this was enough. I was speaking. One could speak afterwards. We can have a little, but I thank for your attention and thank you very much for
Thank you, Mr. Geza. Now we'll have a recitation of some poems from the compositions of Gurudev by artists from National Theatre of Hungary. I would request you all to give a big applause to the team that has come from the National Theatre of Hungary. First of all, I would like to introduce the team. Mr. Arno Verdesh is main dramaturg. Mr. Arno. Mr. Rajoti Zoltan. Ms. Tanki Reka. Mr. Neuri Uzaki. They will be performing the poems from the collections Gardner, Gitanjali and Unknown Rivers Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, we have provided the English version of some of these poems. They are all in circulation, and I now request them to please perform. Thank you very much.
Ki vagy olvasó, ki verseimet 100 év múlva olvasod. Nem küldhetek neked egyetlen virágot sem a tavasznak ebből a gazdagságából, egyetlen aranysávot sem az amott levegő felhőkből. Nyisd ki ajtóidat, és tekints szét. Virágos kertekből szakítsd le egy 100 év előtti kor elveszett virágainak illatos emlékeit. Szíved örömében érezd meg egy tavaszi reggel dalának eleven örömét, mely vidám hangját egy 100 esztendő távolából küldi feléd.
Csalogány csattog. Honnan tudta már a fény előtt, hogy kél a napsugár, mikor az éjsárkánya az ég köré font a fekete kötelét. Szárnyas kis hírnök, hogy talált reát kelet heroldja a sötéten át, midő szunnyadtál a bozótban, s a lomb az ég sátra sűrűn fölét hajolt. Az éjbe merült táj fele, a te dalod volt az élet üzenete. Ébredj valahogy. Emeld fel homlokod, öleld az áldó vérpiros napot, zengd a csalogány örjüngő dalát.
Egy napon találkozni szeretnék bensőmben az élettel, az örömmel, mely életemben rejtőzik. Noha a napok megrontják utamat hitványkorokkal, egy-egy pillanatra megismertem, és megérintett szakadozott lélegzete, mely kis időre illatozóvá tette gondolataimat. Egy napon találkozni szeretnék az örömmel. Rajtam kívül, mely a fényfüggöny mögött tanyázik, és megállni a bőség pusztaságában, hol minden olyannak látszik, ami önnek teremtője látja.
Nem halljátok lépte hangját? Hogy suhan szelíd szelekkel? Ő jön. Ő jön. Ő jön. Minden órán, nappal, éjjel. Minden percben, este, reggel, ő jön. Ő jön. Ő jön. És én dalolva, mint a részeg, bűvös dallal dalt igézek, és minden éneken keresztül közelgő halk lépte rezdül. Ő jön. Ő jön. Ő jön illatos tavasz tüzében. Névadon, virágos árnyán ő jön. Ő jön. Ő jön dörgő fellegek határján. Nyári zápor könnyű szárnyán. Ő jön. Ő jön. Ő jön. És a mély kínok gyötörnek, mindennél külön gyönyörnek üdveként megint e kába búskebelhez ér a lába. Ő jön. Ő jön. Ő jön.
Úgy jöttél el hozzá, mint a bánat, annál inkább kell ragaszkodnod hozzá. Arcodat beburkolja a homály, annál inkább kell, hogy lássanak. Kezed halálos csapásától hadd csapjon életem lámpa. Szememből könyv hull, hadd folyja körül lábadat imádattal. És a fájdalom kedvemben. Hadd beszélje nekem, hogy még mindig az enyém vagy.
Miért aludt el a mécsláng? Miért? Szellőtől óvtam a köpenyemmel. Ezért aludt el a mécsláng, ezért? Miért száradt ki a folyó? Miért? Gátat vontam rá, hogy enyém legyen. Ezért száradt ki a folyó. Ezért. Miért pattant el a landhúr? Miért? Oldalba fogtam, nem bírt a járvány. Ezért pattant el a landhúr. Ezért.
Mikor fogoly voltam házamban, és az ajtó zárva, szívem mindig azt tervezte, hogyan menekülhetne, és kóborolhatna. Most betölt kapun mellett ül, és várom nyugtatni. Szabadságommal tartasz neked.
Ebbe az eleven tutajba kapaszkodom a testembe. egy földi léten keskeny medrében úszik, és itt hagyom, mikor a másik partra értem. És azután nem tudom, a világosság és a sötétség ott egyetlen. Az ismeretlen az örök szabadság. Könyörtelen az ő szeretetében, összetöri a kagylót a gyöngyért. Egy szótalan, sötét börtönében.
Béke veled. Békes szíven válnunk kell. Váljunk szelíden. Teljesülés ez a bús út, nem halál. Mondj néma búcsút. Bánatunkból dal, mesés lesz. Vágyunkból emlékezés lesz. A fészekről messze röppen száll tovább vidám könyveken. A kezed még lanyha. Drága, halk legyen, mint éjvirága. Csöndben áll. Föld és csodás dal. Most beszélj a hallgatással. A lámpámat magasra tartva. Fényt vetek nagy-nagy utadra.
Indeed, a wonderful performance. Now we move on to the next part of the program. I now request Mrs. Romi Mukhopadhyay to please come on stage. Mrs. Mukhopadhyay will perform some compositions from Rabindra Sangeet. Mrs. Mukhopadhyay, please welcome.
Hole the ডাকে ধাঁধা রবির আলোর ঐকে বাধা বুঝি ধরার কাছে আপনাকে সে মাগলো বুঝি ধরার কাছে আপনাকে সে মাগলো সরষে কেটে ফুল হয়ে তাই জাগলো নীল দিগন্তে ওই ফুলের আগুন লাগলো লাগলো নীল দিগন্তে নীল দিগন্তে নীল দিগন্তে মোর বেদন খানি জাগলো অনেক কালের মনের কথায় মাগলো নীল দিগন্তে নীল দিগন্তে মোর বেদন খানি জাগলো অনেক কালের মনের কথায় মাগলো এলো আমার হারিয়ে যাওয়া কোন ফাগুনের পাগল হাওয়া এলো আমার হারিয়ে যাওয়া কোন ফাগুনের পাগল হাওয়া যে ফাগুনে আপনাকে সে মাগলো যে ফাগুনে আপনাকে সে মাগলো সরষে কেটে ঢেউ হয়ে তাই জাগলো নীল দিগন্তে ওই ফুলের আগুন লাগলো লাগলো নীল দিগন্তে বসন্তে সৌরভের শিখা জাগলো বসন্তে সৌরভের শিখা জাগলো দিগন্তে ওই ফুলের আগুন লাগলো লাগলো নীল দিগন্তে। পড়বে না মোর পায়ের চিহ্ন এই বাটে বাইব না আমি বাইব না মোর খেয়া তরি খাটে গো যখন পড়বে না মোর পায়ের চিহ্ন এই বাটে চুকে দেব বেচাকে না মিটিয়ে দেব মিটিয়ে দেব অনাগোনা বন্ধ হবে লীনা দিনা এই হাটে তখন আমায় নাই বা মনে রাখলে তারার পানি চেয়েছে নাই বা আমায় ডাকলে যখন পড়বে না মোর পায়ের চিহ্ন এই বাটে যখন জমবে ধুলা তান পোড়াটার তার গোলায় কাঁটালতা কাঁটালতা উঠবে ঘরের দোরগোড়ায় জমবে ধুলা তান পোড়াটার তার গোলায় ফুলের বাগান ঘন গাছের পড়বে সজ্জা বনবাসে শ্যাওলা এসে ধরবে দিকের ধার গোলায় তখন আমায় নাই বা মনে রাখলে তারার পানি চেয়েছে নাই বা আমায় ডাকলে যখন পড়বে না পায়ের চিহ্ন এই পাটে তখন এমনি করে বাজবে পাশে নাটে কাটবে দিন কাটবে কাটবে করে রাজু যেমন দিন কাটে এমনি করে বাজবে পাশে নাটে খাটে খাটে খেলার তোরে এমনি এমনি সেদিন উঠবে ভোরে চড়বে গরু খেলবে রাখালি মাঠে তখন আমায় নাই বা মনে রাখলে তারার পানি চেয়েছে নাই বা আমায় ডাকলে যখন পড়বে না পায়ের চিহ্ন এই বাটে তখন কে বলে গো সেই প্রভাতে নেই আমি সকল খেলা করবে খেলাই আমি কে বলে গো সেই প্রভাতে নেই আমি নতুন নামে ডাকবে মোরে বাঁধবে বাঁধবে মোরে বদলে বোঝাবো চিরদিনের আমি এখন আমায় নাই বা মনে রাখলে তারার পানি চেয়েছে নাই বা আমায় ডাকলে যখন পড়বে না পায়ের চিহ্ন এই বাটে আমি বাইব না মোর খেয়া তরি ঘাটে গো যখন পড়বে না মোর পায়ের চিহ্ন এই বাটে চুকে দেব বেচাকে না মিটিয়ে দেব অনাগোনা বন্ধ হবে লেনা দেনা এই হাটে আমায় নাইবা মনে রাখলে তারার পানি যে নাইবা আমায় ডাকলে যখন পড়বে না মোর পায়ের চিহ্ন এই পাটে যখন পড়বে না মোর পায়ের চিহ্ন এই পাটে।
Thank you, Mrs. Mukhopadhyay, for the thoroughly enjoyable rendition of the compositions. Thank you very much once again. Now I request my colleague, Mr. Ali Johar, to come on stage. He will be reciting one poem translated in Hindi from the major collection Gitanjali. Mr. Johar.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय है भारत भाग्य विधाता। जी हाँ दोस्तों, जब मुख से राष्ट्रगान की आवाज निकलती है तो ऐसा लगता है हर भारतवासी देश की समृद्धि और विकास के लिए प्रार्थना कर रहा हो, और साथ ही साथ हम खुद को सम्मानित महसूस करते हैं और खुद सम्मान देते हैं उस महान हस्ती को जिन्होंने इस राष्ट्रगान को गढ़ा है। और उस महान हस्ती का नाम है कविवर गुरुदेव रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर। वास्तव में गुरुदेव रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर विश्व स्तर पे भारत की सांस्कृतिक विरासत के धरोहर थे। उनकी एक रचना गीतांजलि, जिनके लिए उन्हें नोबेल पुरस्कार मिला था, उन्होंने उस समय लिखी जब भारत में सामाजिक कुरीतियां कुछ घर कर गई थी। और उन्होंने एक कविता के जरिए महिलाओं की स्थिति को दर्शाते हुए उस समय दिखलाया कि बंगाल में उस समय स्त्रियों के उत्थान के लिए लोग नारी पूजा करने लगे थे, अपनी बालिकाओं की पूजा करते थे। तो प्रस्तुत है वो कविता, जिसमें एक्चुअली माता और शिशु के बीच के संबंध को दर्शाया गया है। कहाँ मिली मैं, कहाँ से आई, यह पूछा जब शिशु ने माँ से। कहाँ मिली मैं, कहाँ से आई, यह पूछा जब शिशु ने माँ से। कुछ रोती कुछ हंसती बोली, चिपकाकर अपनी छाती से। छिपी हुई थी उर में मेरे पेट में, छिपी हुई थी उर में मेरे, मन की सोती इच्छा बनकर। बचपन के खेलों में तुम थी प्यारी सी गुड़िया बनकर। बचपन के खेलों में तुम थी प्यारी सी गुड़िया बनकर। मिट्टी की उस देव मूर्ति में तुम्हें गढ़ा करती थी बेटी। मिट्टी की उस देव मूर्ति में तुम्हें गढ़ा करती थी बेटी। कुल देवी की प्रतिमा में तुम्हारी पूजा करती थी बेटी। मेरी आशा और प्रेम में, मेरी आशा और प्रेम में, मेरे और प्रीतम के जीवन में सदा रही जो और रहेगी, सदा रही जो और रहेगी, अमर स्वामिनी अपने घर की। सदा रही जो और रहेगी, अमर स्वामिनी अपने घर की। उसी गिरहात्मा की गोदी में तुम ही पली हो युगों युगों से। बचपन के खेलों में तुम थी प्यारी सी गुड़िया बनकर। छिपी हुई थी उर में मेरे, मन की सोती इच्छा बनकर। मिट्टी की उस देव मूर्ति में तुम्हें ही गढ़ा करती थी बेटी। कुल देवी की प्रतिमा में भी तुम्हारी पूजा करती थी बेटी। धन्यवाद।
Now we come to the concluding part of the program. I hereby request His Excellency Ambassador Mishra to come on stage and address on this occasion, please. Please come.
Thou hast made me endless, such is thy pleasure. This frail vessel thou emptiest over and over again, and filleth with life ever again. the beginning of Gitanjali. Gitanjali, offerings of flower to the Father. For Tagore, his father was God. It was a personal communication with God, a personal communion with God. My dear friends, lovers of Tagore, Dr. Emil Lazar from the Ministry of Culture, Human Resources, Dr. Geza, Chief Guest of the evening, Mr. Atali, representing the Foreign Ministry, all of you, my colleagues from the Embassy, we are indeed thankful to all of you to have come and taken part in this very beautiful event of today, when we are celebrating the 154th anniversary of the greatest poet India has ever seen, and perhaps the world would have also felt the power of the poet. I also thank our great artists from the National Theatre of Budapest who came and rendered some beautiful poems from Gitanjali, and also Romi, who sang for us three of Tagore's beautiful poetry, which is called Rabindra Sangeet when it is put into rhyme and meter. And also Ali, who gave us a translation of a beautiful emotional poem where the mother is feeling about the child which has just come out of her bosom to the earth, and her communication with the child when the child is asking, where was I? Where was I before I came to this world? And the mother is saying that the child was in the mother's imagination all along. In all the actions which the mother has done, she has always felt the reflection of a child which she is giving birth to. Tagore's communion with God was also in a way his interaction with nature, which he believed was Mother Nature. And therefore, the Vedantic notion of the Purush and the Prakriti was complete in Tagore. It was, the father was, of course, God, the mother was Prakriti, nature, and there was an immaculate interaction between both the father and the mother to produce humanity. And therefore, Tagore was a child of humanity. Tagore lived for the humanity. In his last years, while he was traveling through a good part of the world, and he came to Europe several times, he of course had a lot of respect for countries like Germany and Japan, which he visited. But the nationalism of these countries, the rabid form of nationalism which was getting born on the altar of war, did not attract him at all, and he was virulently critical of this nationalism of countries like Germany and Japan, which were unleashing their nationalism. I must tell you a very small incident. Just before coming to Hungary in 1926, Tagore had a meeting with Mussolini, Laureate of Italy, who was also a part of this great Axis powers in Germany. His first impression was that Laureate was a great personality. He had a wonderful leader-like figure, he had wonderful leader-like qualities, but when he went back after his journey to Europe, he wrote about the Führer, Laureate, about what evil characters they were on the face of mankind, that they were destroying mankind. And he lost all his sympathy not only for them, but for the systems which they had created. Tagore's last years were years of frustration, of bitterness. In a way, he was reflecting on what was happening in the world today because he was looking at himself as a representative of the world, not India alone. In bridging the East and the West, there couldn't have been a better bridge. There couldn't have been a better link between the Eastern civilization, the values of the Eastern civilization, and the glories of the Western world. The values of the Western world, which he tried to bring in a way, in his own way, in his writings, in his poems, in his verses, in his paintings, to depict a new age. He was a man of a supreme vision. It so happened that when he wrote this song offerings, Gitanjali, the Western world took him to be a mystique. They said that is what attracted the Western world basically. That's what commanded him the Nobel Prize, the first Nobel Prize which any Asian could have won. And he was an Indian to be winning the Nobel Prize for literature, and that to English literature. And incidentally, English was his least favorite subject while he was growing up as a child. He never was enchanted with English at all. He learned many subjects. He learned astronomy, he learned mathematics, he learned astrology, he learned Sanskrit, he learned Latin. But for English, somehow, he did not have much of sympathy. But it is an irony that most of his works had to be translated and brought out to the wider world in English. Otherwise, the world audience couldn't understand him, what the poet was trying to say. The best creations of his were in his village estate, in the formative, creative years of his life, in the beginning of the 20th century. In Shailada, in a village today located in Bangladesh. Those days, Bengal was one. And he went to his village estate. It was a huge estate because these were aristocrats of their times. His father had a huge estate, his grandfather had even a bigger estate. And he used to go into the lap of nature. He used to forget his own existence in the lap of nature. His first communion with nature happened when he was barely 12 years old, when he went to a place called Dalhousie in the Himalayas, because he was fascinated by the Himalayas. He went again and again to the Himalayas, to the mountains, to see the mountains, the vegetation on the mountains, the pine trees on the mountain slopes, the rivers, the rivulets, the beauty of the mountains. And when he came to Shailada, he saw a huge river called Padma. That is even there today, the Padma river. And he literally spent his creative years on the banks of the Padma and wrote his exquisite compositions on the banks of the river Padma. And that is where he got his inspiration. Tagore is not properly understood by the West, I am afraid. We all know Tagore very partially. We do not know the full Tagore. Nobody knows the full Tagore. Even in India, it is very difficult to explain the full Tagore because the corpus of his works is so vast. He started writing, as Dr. Geza mentioned, from the age of 8. At the age of 16, he brought out his publication. Those days, he was not confident to put his own name of Tagore. So he used another pen name, which was called Bhanusimha. Bhanusimha, incidentally, is a Vaishnava poet. He was deeply influenced by Vaishnavism. So he brought out his collection of his works at the age of 16 under this pen name. But later on, soon after that, he dispensed with that. And in a beautiful poem, which is called Nirjare Shopnabhanga, which means awakening of the fountain, which he wrote as one of his collection for a wonderful Sandhya Sangeet, which is evening songs. He says how the fountain is unraveling, how the fountain is opening up, how the fountain will no longer be suppressed within the human soul. Actually, he was speaking about his own creative fountain. And this creative fountain will never stop until the last day of his life. He lived a full 80 years. Those 8 years were literally coterminous with British imperial rule in India. 1857 to 1947, the poet lived from 1867 to 1941. Lived beautifully 1861 to 1941, 80 years, exactly 80 years. He saw a lot about the British. He went to England, 2 years he spent in England unsuccessfully. He couldn't complete any course there. He came back, but he was not frustrated. He went because his family wanted him to go and be educated as a lawyer. He had no interest neither in England nor in becoming a lawyer because he was a creative person. He came back and soon found his vocation, what he was. Tagore passed through several personal tragedies in his life, as was mentioned. Married young, at the age of 22, lost his wife at the age of 41, lost 3 of his children. By the time he was 50, he had only 1 child left and no wife. And yet, because of his creative potential, he has encountered lots and lots of women in his life, right up to the twilight of his life, where he meets this Argentinian lady called Victoria Ocampo. It's a very interesting story where Victoria Ocampo, while Tagore is leaving Argentina, she brings a huge sofa for him. A sofa which couldn't fit into Tagore's cabin on board the ship. But Tagore says, because Ocampo has got this for me, I must carry this with me back to India. It was with great difficulty that that huge sofa, which was gifted by Victoria Ocampo, was somehow dragged into the little cabin which Tagore occupied on board that ship. And he sat constantly on that and wrote many poems dedicated to Victoria Ocampo, seated on that little sofa chair, while he was coming back to India. A brilliant life, a multifaceted polymath's life, a creative genius which India has never seen, neither before nor after. A poet, essayist, story writer, novelist, filmmaker, director, musician, verse composer, unimaginable fountain of creativity Tagore had. We have only seen a slice of that through his creative outbursts from time to time, but his actual philosophy goes back to his interaction with nature. That is where his soul remained, his heart remained in his love for nature. Again and again he went back to the banks of the Padma. Again and again he went back to the boatman, the boat, the imagery, the birds flying, the sky overcast with clouds, the clouds about to burst forth with rain. Humanity is parched. Humanity is thirsting for that drops of water. The drop of water falling on a dewdrop, and that becoming a universe. Pure Vedantic thoughts. But yet, because of his personal connection with God, he was also taken to be a philosopher of the Sagun Brahman school. We have in Vedanta, we have Nirgun Brahman, which is a faceless Brahman, which is a Brahman which doesn't have an anthropomorphic image, but a Sagun Brahman which has anthropomorphic image, which is given a face. And in many of his paintings you will see the father's face in a silhouette as an etching. And many of his paintings are brilliant works of verse. He has converted those verse things to paintings. No other painter has ever done this style after him. You will see many of his paintings where you cannot decipher what is the theme of that painting. Because actually it is a poem which he has written. And he has joined a few dots here and there emerges a figure out of that. So it is both a poem as well as a painting. That was the genius of Tagore. Of course, his Nobel Prize made him very famous in the world. People don't know why he was actually traveling to so many countries. Towards the end, he was tired. He said, I cannot travel anymore, but I have to. Why? Because he had founded a school in 1901 in Shantiniketan, which grew up to become a university called Vishwabharati in 1921, 20 years later. And along with Vishwabharati, he also founded a great institute called Rural Reconstruction Institute. Belmust, a very famous British development economist. Together they founded this rural development school. Today, if you go to Shantiniketan, you will see in Shantiniketan, if you stay, I spent a day in Shantiniketan, it is a mesmerizing place. That's why so many people from Hungary, as well as all over the world, have been fascinated by Shantiniketan and have gone and worked together and have lived together and have created together. Today you will see handicrafts from not only India but from various parts of the world are flourishing there. Batik, which is an Indonesian artwork, is flourishing in Shantiniketan, and he has converted into an Indian style of batik painting on textiles. And today, these women, what you said, the women's self-help, what he was trying to do, women's empowerment, they are doing bags, leather bags, batik painting. There are many, many things which are sold in the marketplace in Shantiniketan, on the campus, and at subsidized rates because it is a university campus. It is not a commercial place. Vishwabharati had to live. Vishwabharati was not known in the world. What was Vishwabharati? Vishwabharati was conceived as a unity of cultures of the world. It was a meeting house of cultures of the world. And Tagore had to represent India to the rest of the world and bring the rest of the world to Vishwabharati. Out of the way place from Calcutta. It is more than 3 hours by road. The roads are bad. And those days it will be even more dangerous. You cannot travel nearly maybe half the road because it rains so much. It is a very rainy area. And yet people would flock from all parts of the world. It was like an enchanting scene there to see people from all countries come there, live there, work there. Even today, long after Shantiniketan was, Vishwabharati was declared a national university. But until then, it was Tagore's own contribution, which he was collecting by visiting all these countries, by accepting these lecture tours. In Hungary also came for a lecture tour. He was invited by the Hungarian Literary Society to come here and give a series of lectures, which he gave, but in the process he was exhausted, so he was transported to Balatonfüred. The rest you know is history, what you see today in Balatonfüred. But like here in Hungary, he was visiting all over the world in his peripatetic journeys, all throughout. And wherever he was going, he was collecting money for his lectures. Of course, not directly, but whosoever paid whatever he collected. He said, in the name of my institution which I have founded, I have to have money to save this institution from extinction. Today, Vishwabharati is a model university in the world. Of course, we are going to have bridges between Vishwabharati and perhaps, if we can finalize with the Foreign Ministry's cooperation, a link between Vishwabharati and LT University. And in a few days from now, in this month itself, we are going to install a bust of Tagore in the precincts of LT University with a function this month. This is Tagore's tribute to the world and the world's tribute to Tagore, the world's tribute to Vishwabharati, about the giant of a person who consumed his entire energy throughout his life of 80 years, doing the work which nobody else, no other Indian has ever done before. If he is great today, he is great for his values, not for his journeys, not for his lectures, even not for his Nobel Prize. In fact, Yeats, who introduced him in Gitanjali, he was frustrated because till then his body of work was more mystical, which the West understood. Maybe with his flowing beard, with his long beard, his appearance, he looked like a mystic. But after that he's had a break. There was no mysticism. There was direct communion with nature. And the West couldn't understand that. So Yeats was frustrated. How would he analyze Tagore anymore? And Tagore, in one of his writings, he in a way satirizes on the West of their having incompletely understood him, of having understood him from their perspective, which was not the whole perspective. The story of Tagore is never ending. In anything we do today, in any creative endeavor in India, we have the stamp of Tagore. 2 national anthems, one for India, one for Bangladesh. He is the only person in the world who has composed 2 national anthems of India and Bangladesh. As far back as 1911, India's national anthem was sung in one of the sessions of Indian National Congress. It was sung, Jana Gana Mana. The same was transported to Germany by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and it was sung in 1942 in the height of the Second World War, when Netaji was hobnobbing with Axis powers, trying to get the support to fight the British. Of course, he was unsuccessful. But that was a time when there was a strict division in India's political situation. There was a group of radicals who were going out under the leadership of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, who were not prepared to take the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. Not many know that Mahatma Gandhi and Tagore shared a wonderful rapport and yet had their many, many differences. It was Gandhi who called Tagore as Gurudev when he met him in 1915. Tagore returned that compliment by calling Mahatma Gandhi as Mahatma. Tagore was the one who gave the title of Mahatma to Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi when they meet in Shantiniketan. So both had a tremendous appreciation for each other's life, mission, what they were doing. But the strategies they didn't agree. In 1934, to give you an example, there was a big famine in Bihar, where people were dying for shortage of food, were dying for hunger. Huge famine, where thousands of people were dying. And Mahatma Gandhi said, he wrote in one of his publications that maybe they are getting a divine curse. Maybe it is a curse of God that they are suffering from that. That's why they are dying. Tagore immediately repudiated Mahatma Gandhi. He said, no. There is no scope for divinity here. Divinity will never kill people. Divinity will create. It is wrong thinking. People can't die because they lack divinity. Nobody lacks divinity. These are some of the examples of the way they were looking at things and the strategies which they are adopting. As you heard, the knighthood, he returned soon after Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened, when he could not tolerate that 379 Indians, innocent children, women, were mowed down by bullets, 1 bullet for 1 body. He couldn't stand. It was a total uproar in Indian nationalists. And he returned, the next day he returned with a letter to the Viceroy. He couldn't take it. He couldn't be in any way associated with an empire who kills people for no rhyme or reason, he said. And this was no justification for a legal, just empire, he said. And that was the turning point in his political writings, because thereafter he becomes more and more direct in criticizing the British for exploiting the Indians so badly. As I said, Tagore's life cannot be detailed over just one event or just a lecture for 20 minutes, a short one. We have to go deep into the thought of Tagore and understand the person that he was, the prodigy that he was, and the life that he lived in their surroundings. He had three major influences in his life: the Brahmo Samaj, which was a legacy which he inherited from his father; Bankim Chandra, the highest literary genius of his time, who has written some of the most fiery writings of nationalists; and of course political icons of his time, Mahatma Gandhi and others, with whom he saw the struggle. He was a part of the struggle, but he was struggling in a different way. He was not struggling as a part of the Charkha movement. He was not struggling out on the streets, burning his foreign clothes. No. He was struggling through his creative expressions. He was fighting the British through his creative expression. And many of his creative writings directly hit the British, directly hit the illegal system which the British had fostered on the Indians. And that is where his genius is. That he had always been a person with great creativity, a great illumination, and a great philosophical bent. That in the last day also he was composing poems. Even on his deathbed, he suffered for nearly 6 months towards the end of his life, very badly. Right from the end, 1940 till 1941, till he passed away in August. He suffered a lot. But he said, civilization will one day come from the East. Civilization will one day be recognized by the West as coming up from the East, from where the sun rises. The civilization is like the rising sun. It has to rise from the East, and it has to set on the West. Those were his last creative thoughts before he breathed his last. Today, in paying a tribute to that great soul, we can only do justice by amazing at the virtuosity, at the creativity of this wonderful man who called himself all the time a universal man. That he represented man. When man conflicted with anything, he supported man. When man conflicted with the system, when man conflicted with nationalism, of which he was a great advocate, he supported man and not nationalism. Because to him, man was the fount of creation, and human soul could not be destroyed. Therefore, even if he has passed into history, we remember him like all Indians do, like the whole world does, like many people in Hungary do, great admirers of Tagore. But it is good to undertake not only the verse part of Tagore, but the philosophy part of Tagore, to understand the person that he was, behind the verses. And thereafter the appreciation would come even better, bigger, more pronounced. So dear friends, I stop here. We have still some other things to do for the rest of the evening, but thank you very much for coming. I presume that all of you may have read Tagore or may have lived Tagore in some way or the other, because your interest in Tagore has brought you here. And may we all be blessed by that Divine Father, by that Divine Mother, which has no name, which has no particular religion, which has no particular image of a God, but we are all one. In the shade of humanity, we belong to one soul, we belong to one expression, and therefore, Indians as well as Hungarians are part of that same humanity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for the very informative address. Now we come to the end of this today's program. I have two important announcements to make. We have organized one very nice exhibition in our exhibition hall in collaboration with Shicheni Library, and I'm lucky to announce that the curator of the exhibition, Miss Agnes Pop, is here, and she will take you around and show you the exhibition. Wonderful exhibition is here. Second announcement is that as Excellency has mentioned just now, that we are having another program on 22nd of May at Altay University. The program will start at 5:30. It includes unveiling of the bust of Tagore, including other programs, recitation of poems and some documentary and all that. So I request you all to also grace that occasion on 22nd May from 5:30 onwards in A wing of Altay University. Thank you very much. Now I want to finally thank you all for coming and gracing this occasion. I also want to request you all to partake of small refreshments that we have arranged for the day. Thank you very much once again. All the best.